you want me to introduce
You can
myself
do
or?
it.
Okay.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the Free Texas Campaign, Voices from Behind the Walls. Of course, I am the queen of collaborations, Angela Thomas Smith, and I want to thank you guys for all of your support with the Free Texas Campaign and what we're trying to do. We are the change that we desire to see in this world, and in order to see change, we have to be that change. So that's what we're doing inside of the TDCJ. We're trying to expose some of the corruption that is going on within the TDCJ and some of the corruption that has led to individuals being part of this corrupt system. I tell you, the state of Texas has a lot that they need to be held accountable for. And we are calling for the Department of Justice to get involved and to do a clean sweep through the state of Texas, starting with the governor. I will not back down. I will not let it go. That's what I desire to see. And until change come, you will be hearing from me. So if you are not supporting the Free Texas campaign, I want you to go over, make sure that you are following us on YouTube. Make sure that you're following us on Facebook, speaker.com, so that you can catch these episodes as they come forth, because there are many stories just like the one you are about to hear. If you would, sir, if you would please come on up and introduce yourself and allow people to hear what it is you have to say on today.
All right. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate you having me on your show. My name is Elias Flores Jr. and I was convicted of capital murder, and I made a lot of bad choices in my life, and I guess you could say, kind of in the game, and I sold drugs, and I am guilty of those crimes. But in that process, uh, I started meeting other individuals, and I met this guy that he apparently was an illegal bookie, and we placed bets in Las Vegas. And so I met this particular individual, and the group that I was associated with basically invested in this guy. It's like what they gamble right now it was illegal when I got arrested. So the issue at hand was I went to go visit him on July 9th, 1992. I've been incarcerated a little over 31 years as a present, and we were supposed to talk business, but other things happened. Other things transpired that day, and he was killed in his house. And so from that point on, I basically left the house because it was over money. But I'm not. I grew up lower. I really grew up middle class, and I never. I don't think people understand what capital murder actually means under my law. So I'm going to explain it just a little bit. So a capital murder under the Texas scheme in the time that I got incarcerated was you're either committing a robbery, a burglary, a rape, and the commission of murdering somebody, or you kill two or more people, or you kill a peace officer. Okay, and so in this case, they basically said I robbed or committed burglary, and then I killed this individual, which I didn't. But that's the storyline. So I get a pre-indictment, and so I guess they put a warrant out for my arrest, and I basically left San Antonio. I went to Corpus for a little while, and then when I came back, I was arrested on September 15th, 1992 for capital murder. I am currently at the McConnell unit here on Beeville, Texas, and when I got arrested, they treated me okay as far as when they arrested me, because when I had got arrested for the other drug charges that I am guilty of, they beat me up. So I get to Fair County Jail. I get interrogated by two detectives, and one was named Marin, Detective Marin, and Head Detective Baker. And they told me that they wanted me to make a statement. And I told them that, I'd like to have a lawyer present. And I said, no, you don't need a lawyer. No, you can give us a statement. And at this particular time, I had become dependent on Xanax because I had anxiety attacks and panic attacks. So I was seeing a psychologist and a psychiatrist at this time. And I had told them, well, if I can have my medication, I'll give you a statement. Because before that, they told me if I didn't give them a statement, that they would make sure that they kill me and give me the death penalty. And so at that time, I was kind of cold because I was on the run. I was really not in my right mind. But they allowed my wife at the time, Irene, to come down to the Bexar County Jail in the Texas office to give me my medication. I took my medication. They gave me some cigarettes. I drank a soda. And I gave a statement, but my statement never consisted of me killing anybody. But it basically put me there at the scene of the crime. And in Texas, we have what you call the law parties, right? And so if you're in the house, then I'm guilty as the next person, right? And so I get arrested. I go. They house me in the county jail with the Mexican mafia, which I'm not gang related, but they put me in which is BL, left side 6th floor in Bexar County Jail in 1992. And I think that was just like it was a scare tactic, like if I was going to break or something. And so I got a visit about 2 weeks later. And in the capital murder, they give you 2 lawyers. So my first lawyer showed up, and his name was J.S. Norton. And I went down, and he said, hey, I've been court appointed to your case. My name's, gave me his name, and he said, well, I see that you already made a statement, so I probably can't help you because you put yourself at the scene of the crime. And so I was like, I was dumb to the law. I didn't understand. And he's like, well, look, do you have $10,000? And I'm like, no, I don't have $10,000. He said, can you get $10,000? And I'm like, well, yeah, I probably could get $10,000. And he said, well, I'm your lawyer. I can sign you out and run to Mexico. That was his advice. I had never even, I didn't even know how to take what he had told me because I was ignorant to the law. I didn't know I could fire him. I just didn't understand, right? And so my second interview was him basically letting me know that we were scheduled for a hearing. And so I had my first court appearance. And the DA at the time, his name was Mark Lucian. And I'm in the court, and they're kind of giggling and laughing, him and the DA and the judge. And I'm sitting in the little box, handcuffed and stuff. And then he came to me and asked me, I asked him, I said, well, what are they offering me? He says, well, they're offering you the death penalty. And they're kind of laughing, And so it was, I don't know, I felt cold, I didn't understand the process, and I was just like, I just wanted to get out of jail, right? I wanted to get out. And so one of my friends, he hired some attorney, and I had $1 million bond initially. And they reduced it to $75,000 in a hearing. And make a long story short, I made bond on capital murder, which is very rare that they let you make bond on capital murder, but I was able to make bond on capital murder. And all this whole process, I was in the county jail for almost 120 days. But when I make bond, the next week, they indicted me. So they indicted me on January 27, 1993, and I had 2 co-defendants, Jim Coerced and Richard Salinas. And so now I get indicted. I make bond. When I make bond, my lawyers don't even know I make bond. I call them and tell them that I made bond. And they thought I was joking. And they're like, yeah, you're calling me on the triple line. I said, no, I'm not calling you on the triple line. And so they said they wanted to see me. So I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. So I go see them the next day, and I meet my second lawyer, the attorney that I've never seen. And her name is Jean Brown, which is Alan Brown's wife. If you're from San Antonio, Texas, Alan Brown's a real prominent lawyer in San Antonio, especially in the 90s. And she was pregnant at the time. I told her hi from a distance, and that's all I've ever seen of my second lawyer. She never went to hearing. She never talked to me. She never interviewed me. And she was never there in any type of court appearances. Wow. And so at this point, they get up my bonds, and my attorneys tell me to go to the courthouse. Something's wrong with my bonds, but they actually set me up to get rearrested. All they really had to do is tell me, hey, you're going to turn yourself in. But that's just the way the system works. I mean, they were not to help me. My lawyers were not to help me. They were not looking out for my best interest. And from there, everything basically went downhill. My lawyer calls in my parents. Jay Norton calls in my parents and tells them that there's a 72-hour window that they're going to take the death penalty off for 72 hours, and that you need to tell your son to plead guilty, or he's going to get the death sentence. So he did that to my parents, and then he called my wife and my kids. My children were small, and he told my wife the same thing. If you don't get Elias to plead guilty, they're going to give him the death sentence. You know, he has 72 hours to decide what he wants to do, right? And so when they come up there to see me, I tell them, look, I said, Mom, I'm not guilty of capital murder. You know, at worst, maybe voluntary manslaughter because I was in the house and loud parties, and my mom. But my mom and my dad, my family is. We've never been in trouble. None of my family's ever been in trouble in the criminal justice system. And so, but my mom was. I thought my mom was going to have a heart attack. To tell you the truth, and my wife's crying and said, "Just take it." And I'm trying to tell them, you don't understand that this new capital life under the court law is 35 years flat just to come up with parole. But 3 prior years, if you had a capital life, you got the regular 15, and you came up with 15 years. And so I was trying to tell them that really that's death. You know, doing 35, that's death. And then, but my mom, I really did it for my mother. So in the end, I pleaded guilty. But being ignorant to the law, I didn't know that once you take the death sentence off, they can't bring it back. So my lawyer deliberately lied to my parents. He deliberately lied to my wife. And so when they take the death penalty case off, the death penalty off the table, well, there's only a life sentence left with the possibility of parole. So why wouldn't I go to jury trial? I can only get one sentence. But I go into court, and I go to court June 8th, and I plead guilty to capital murder, which is impossible because you cannot waive a jury trial in a capital murder case. You can plead guilty to capital murder, but you can't waive jury trial. See, the laws that they implemented at that time was if they found you guilty, the jury finds you guilty, they'll skip the penalty phase because some of the judges or they'll decide, and the DAs will decide, hey, well, we're going to take off the death sentence. So see if he'll sign for the life. So that way you skip the penalty phase. But in my case, when Terry McDonald was reading everything out loud, he was saying, is there a statement from Flores? And the DA, my lawyer said, well, they didn't like everything that was on it. And that's because I never pleaded it. I never said I killed anybody. I never told them that I wasn't guilty of capital murder. And so, of course, the judge says that I have to follow the plea bargain agreement. And so they had a bunch of papers scattered, signed here, signed there. I really didn't have time to read everything because it really just happened so fast. And so I signed for I thought was a capital I, but after I had my paperwork, it's actually saying that I have 35 years. And but on my judgment and sentencing, it has life and it has 35 calendar years, which is it's not possible because that's two different sentences. And my co-defendants, well, they had offered him a deal. He backed out because he was supposed to testify against me, but he didn't. He ended up giving an aggravated life. He did 21 and a half years, and he was released August 2014. He did get me arrested for violating parole, and I actually don't know where his whereabouts are at this time. My other co-defendant, Richard Salinas, he received no time at all. He never served no time for the case at all.
Wow.
Really? And my lawyers, after I got my paperwork and I started investigating my case, I found out that my lawyers combined didn't even have 8 years of experience. And one of my lawyers was a family lawyer. The other lawyer is a DWI lawyer. They had never done a high-profile case. So really, in the end, I should have never had these lawyers to represent me anyway, because they're not looking out for your best interest. They're just sell you out. They're just there to sell you out.
Yeah, they're just there to get money.
And they're just there to get money. Right. They're just there to get paid, whatever they're going to get paid, and that's just the bottom line behind it. And then I looked at my subpoenas, and in my subpoenas, have you ever heard of Fred Zane?
You said Fred Zane?
Yeah, Fred Zane. Well, he's a person that was impersonating a medical examiner, and he had been hired by several states. I want to say North Carolina, it was Virginia or West Virginia. He was going to court. He died going to court for being a fraud. And he did my crime scene, and he was subpoenaed to if it had gone to trial to testify for the DA. And as far as physical evidence in my case, there's no DNA, no affirmative finding of a weapon, no enhancement, no fingerprints, no footprints, no stolen merchandise. They tore up my house, they tore up my parents' house, and I have no fine. Okay. The other thing was when you try to, I got denied a direct appeal, which is violation of my constitutional rights. So I never had a direct appeal. I never had a PDR. So I had to file an 1107. I file 1107. I get a hearing, but of course I'm not allowed to go to my hearing. It goes to Criminal Court of Appeals in Texas. It gets shot down. So my files go into the Southern Federal District Court, and they shoot me down with the Anti-Terrorism Effective Death Penalty Act. And that's another thing. I mean, the average person in prison, especially at the time that I came to prison in the early 90s, we probably had about a 6th grade education. I'm blessed. I graduated from high school. I'm well educated, put it that way. I didn't grow up and not needing anything. I had everything that I needed, and I'm okay, right? I'm not just the average inmate. So when I start studying law, when I get into the federal district court and they shoot me down with Anti-Terrorism Effective Death Penalty Act, I ask them, hey, well, I need a lawyer. So I filed for a lawyer. And then their response was that I understood the law enough to file the papers for a 2250 form response with a traverse motion. But how can I be a lawyer in 2 years and understand the law of Texas, of federal law too? That's impossible when it takes an average lawyer 8 to 12 years just to even have a name for himself or herself. And so I beat the Anti-Terrorism Effective Death Penalty Act by like like it was like 30 something days. So then they let me file my 2254. It gets shut down. I go into the Fifth Circuit to file a certificate of appealability, and I get to go to the law library. I'm on Veto 1 at the time, and I file that. I get shut down. So I file into the Supreme Court. I filed with the cert, got accepted. I made the docket, and the second day of the opening day, which is October 2nd, 2000, I was shut down. My writ of cert was shut down. And I want people to understand that even though you have constitutional errors in your case, and you make the docket, that doesn't mean that there is a discrepancy in your case. But the Supreme Court is only going to hear so many cases, and they're going to decide which cases they're going to take, and they just didn't take my case. So, I mean, that's just, and so in actuality, I don't even know how I have what I have, and I've never had, nobody's ever, I tried to reach out to, I reached out to a couple of places, and I had one of my friends that had got out, and he had talked to some students that were going to law school in Victoria, in the college there, and they said, hey, Ben, would like to look at your paperwork. So I sent my paperwork, and they said, hey, man, you know, we'll take your case for the semester, you know. So they go talk to their law professor, and for some reason the law professor says, hey, you can't take that case. You can't take that case. So I'm like, well, what's wrong with my case? I'm trying to look at it, and I'm trying to understand why every time I try to get some help, they look at my case and then they don't want to take it.
Because what has happened is it's going to open the door for a lot of people to be exposed. A lot of people erred. A lot of people messed up, and I can guarantee you, if you do the trail, and there's a trail because there's a pattern, and if you follow the trail, you follow the pattern, it's going to all lead back to the same people. It's going to all lead back to the same departments, and that's what they're afraid of, because there's a lot of cover up going on in TDCJ, the judicial system in Texas, period. There's a lot of cover up. The DA's office, there's a lot. Even judges are involved. There's when a judge can write an inmate and tell them that if their story is true, then they should not even be locked up, and that they need to apply for an F1, immediate release. If a judge can tell you that, then why can't he walk over to wherever the F1 is supposed to be completed at, or why he can't just render that verdict? Because they don't want to go against their counterparts. They don't want to go against those people that they know are in error, so they're trying to find ways to cover up. Cordell Drummer, he's over at the Connolly unit. He has a $100 million lawsuit against these people right now for violation of his rights, for the cover up of medical examiner as well. And they have documentations that shows that these people have been falsifying documents for years. And not only that, how they've been rubber stamping indictment. But what they do, that's what they've been doing, and they've been doing it for years.
Right. You couldn't indict me in 113 or 14 days before I make bond, but as soon as I make bond, you indict me the next week. How? I was in the county jail all that time, but you couldn't indict me for capital murder.
That's what they do.
But as soon as I make bond, you indict me the next week.
And that's what they have been doing. And it's time for people to take notice and people to know that this is what they're doing, and it needs to come to a stop. So, what is your plea for the people today? What is it that you would like for that person that is tuned in, that may have a heart, or may have a conscience, or may have resources, or may have an idea of something that can be done? Well, what is your plea to them today?
My plea today is just for somebody to have mercy and help me with with my case, as far as I feel that my plea bargain is not valid. It's not valid because you can't waive a jury trial in a capital murder. You can't. But even though they say you can, and you file this paperwork or you ask these attorneys, they just tell you, well, I can't take the case. Everybody tells me they can't take my case. I don't understand. Or if they say, well, I need $100,000. And I say, well, what kind of guarantee do I have? And there's no guarantee. We're going to give you no guarantee. And so, and in this whole process, they had me down as Mexican Mafia, which I'm not Mexican Mafia. They had me down as a hitman for the Texas Syndicate or the Mexican Mafia.
See, they're killing me with that. Every person that every person that I've interviewed that has been of Mexican heritage, that's what they've said. They implement everybody as Mexican Mafia, everybody as a hitman. You are the fifth person that have come on here and said that. Like this is a profile that they're using to get these people and to hem these people up. Like alone, it needs to be an investigation. That's crazy. Like these families, like I don't understand how. Look, I'm telling everybody to have a family member to please get involved in what we're doing here with the Free Texas campaign. Get on social media, follow us, see what we're doing. I am coming to Texas. And we're going to go down in January when they down there lobbying for these different laws to get on the ticket and all that. We need to be out there making noise. We need to be out there being a voice. So I need family members that's willing to join with me and willing to be a voice, because doing nothing, it's time out for that. Enough is enough. And it's too many people that have been behind prison wall over 20 years, over 30 years. That's sad. And it's a pattern. People need to look at these patterns. They need to look at this paper trail. They need to look at what is going on. And they need to realize that if all these cases are like this, then there has to be a problem. And they need to stop covering up. And they need to get to the bottom of it.
Right, that's exactly what they do. They make the society believe that they're locking up, career criminals that can't be rehabilitated. But what it is you don't want to take us to jury trial because it costs them too much money. You don't want to give us the good lawyers because we don't have the monies to protect the rights that we should have as an American citizen. They always want to say, oh, well, we can't do this for you. We can't, because they sell us out for the people that are paying the attorneys money so they can do them a favor and not us. And we get caught in this. I got caught in this hard on crime stuff. Throw away the key, fill all these prisons in Texas, because I've seen it. I watched it. I've been locked up, 31 years. December 3rd, I'll have 31 years flat. And I've seen this system there is no rehabilitation in Texas. There's no education. There's no college on the unit that I'm pressing me on. And so they just oppress us to where people are starting to commit suicide because they oppress us so much. We just had a suicide today, this morning, on McConnell unit.
Well, that's the second one, because when I talked to somebody
we had one Friday.
the other day, it was another one. So
we've had 2 in 4 days. Yes, ma'am.
And that's a problem, because it's happening at other units. That's a problem within TDCJ. So that alone, they need to look at. They need to be looking into it. But then they want to say it all this stems from drugs. How the drugs getting in there then? How they getting in there? Because the prisoners are sure not going nowhere to get no drugs. So how's the drugs getting in there?
But they want to make society believe that we're bringing in the drugs.
How? Well, you can't go nowhere.
Exactly.
And then if they are going somewhere, how are they going somewhere?
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
Thank you, y'all. I'm telling y'all, it is time to get involved. Y'all are gonna hear story after story where it's similar. These legislators, these Congress people, these representatives, the governor, the attorney general, the district attorneys. Y'all, these people are crooked. And it's something need to be done about it. The citizens of Texas need to stand up and say enough is enough. I'm telling you, if you have incarcerated individuals, you need to get connected to the Free Texas campaign. Y'all, I will be back at 1:55 with another interview. So y'all hang tight and I'll see y'all then. And thank you guys for sharing this out. Please make sure you share this in your circle of influence.